Well, say the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just now realized Ross is Augie, that's why he's here.
Augie is at a state meeting of county clerks and is finding out about grants and some of the stuff the feds are gonna do for election protection and all the things involved with that. So it's a good thing. He thought about, you know, whether he needed to be here, but he thought maybe that would be a better place for him this morning, so. I'd like to ask Sam if she'd like to, so if you need to take off or anything, you wanna hit us first, so go for it.
I don't have anything. Derek, if you have a meeting date.
Just working on that right now. Wednesdays and Fridays, right?
Be better, yes. Third, second or the fourth. Because I think the county board is the 11th, or the 9th, I'm sorry.
Whatever that second Tuesday is, I think that's right.
Wednesday.
This is-
So you, Derek, you can text me with that later.
All right.
But
The
you-
9th is a Wednesday.
That's a board meeting.
Okay.
You're running
Yeah, I assume.
No issues, no complaints. Everything's running fine.
We've had a couple complaints. Both of them have been addressed. One of the ladies said that her husband is at Paris Healthcare, and Paris Healthcare has called for an ambulance for him twice. She doctors for him at Union. Both times, 2 other ambulances have been on calls out of town, so we've not been able to take him directly to Union. And so the second time it happened, which was last week, she got a little huffy and said the county board will hear about this. And I'm like, you know, and so I just tried to explain to her, ma'am, I'm sorry, we'll get him to, and we did get him to Union, but unfortunately we had to stop in Paris until we could wait until an ambulance to come back. And
Is that it? Do you folks have any more questions?
Now, one of the sirens just sounds different. I'm not used to it yet.
sorry.
We always make sure we line it up really loud.
I know, so-
Maybe
Right
they're
surprised
in
you
the
didn't
house.
hear it.
I was gonna say, maybe your hearing.
Just like my alarm clock, 8 o'clock, it comes by every morning. Oh, is it the same patient all the time at 8 in the morning?
About between 5:30
Yeah,
and
Dan,
6.
we have a patient.
I know. That's my alarm clock. I just kidding.
Okay. Andy?
Where do you want to start?
I don't know. How about the insurances on the property schedules?
What do you want to do about, you talked about the courthouse, so there's a few others, but I think that's up to each individual.
Right, and the total that they're suggesting for like all of the highway issues is 2.5, and Aaron and Josh are recommending that we functional replacement at $2,150,000. Okay?
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
And then, of course, the courthouse is the big one, where Augie and Huxford have been working on that to the functional value, and they're supposed to let us know.
Okay.
One of the big questions that they're gonna know today is that, you know, it's not gonna happen, but if the courthouse burns to the ground, which, that's not gonna happen, but I guess it could. At any rate,
Tornado.
right, tornado, something destroys it, can we take the money, whether it's functional or whatever, and stick a jail under it, and still be legal? It's a question we need to ask. In other words, if they give us 15 million bucks, do we have to just replace the courthouse, or can we use part of that money and stick it? Now, obviously, we've got to have the same footprint,
Government building, yeah.
okay? And I think it needs to be asked. It gives us more flexibility. We might not want to do that, but at least we'll know that that's a possibility. And he's supposed to be getting a hold of me here soon, and he's in conference with Illinois County's Risk Management Trust right now, so, okay? So, we need to move that forward so that we can,
So, well, to get what they decide to do, in other words, you're waiting on an answer on that though, correct?
right.
All right.
And
It doesn't have to be in the same place?
yes, it has to be in the
It
same
does have
place.
to be in the same
I think
place.
so.
Yeah, the question needs to be answered soon so that we are bidding out and we want other folks to give us, other companies to give us their thoughts on it, whether it's the other county's risk or whatever, and we need that information. And of course, we're asking Illinois County's risk management to rebid theirs under different conditions anyway, so that's where we're at. Does that make sense, I think?
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to-
And, I guess that's, unless you wanna talk about the meeting with the hospital and the different law enforcement agencies, you wanna talk about that later?
No,
It's funny that we met with Horizon Health, Jeff Wood, the city, chief of police, fire chief, and a couple of other guys. The mayor was asked to be there, but I didn't see him. Has anybody reached
no,
out?
he couldn't, yeah, he was, but he couldn't make it.
Okay. And we talked about what, the
For
poss-
that meeting or another meeting, I
Okay.
forget which. Anyway,
the possibility of, and there is grant money and out there, in fact, quite a bit of grant money. And to coordinate and collect into one area all of your emergency disaster services, and correct me if I'm wrong, emergency disaster services, dispatching, 911, all that. That's
The
kind of,
public safety building per
Okay.
se is what we're kind of proposing, is putting all public safety in one location, whether it's under one roof or, but all within the same location. And if Horizon Health, potentially, we think, if Horizon Health takes the lead on the building, we can do it a little bit cheaper. We don't have to pay prevailing wage because we're not a county, I don't know. Depends, if we use grant dollars, again, just what the meeting was to get everybody's ideas and everybody's interest in doing this. We are going to be going forward building an ambulance bay, training center, offices, sleeping quarters, workout center, the whole nine. We don't want to get next year down the road and have invested $500,000 to $750,000 and somebody say, well, it'd be nice if you'd have put dispatch in there. So we tried to bring everybody around the table, give them 30 to 45 days to go back to their prospective boards, bosses type of thing and say 3 questions. Are you interested? What do you foresee funding looking like? And what is the amount of square footage, if you are interested, that you would need, so that we can look at land acquisition. We need to know how much square footage people are gonna need before we can determine a location that we need to look at acquiring.
So, I'm sorry, just to clarify, you're basically looking at ESDA, dispatch, and ambulance service bay, what have you.
Fire, police,
Oh, fire, police
Sheriff's
also, okay,
if possible, they,
yeah,
anybody, yeah.
okay.
Everything on one.
I mean, when you look at the structural situations of buildings for all those apartments, ours is obviously top notch. 911, you know, the cities,
city and,
the older building, the fire chiefs, you know, his is an older building, they're all older buildings that are gonna require some money in the next few years. So is it something to look at, you know, if you as a city wants to go out and build another place, well, that's pretty expensive. But if you start looking at everybody going together and spread the cost out a little, you have some economies of scale that really make sense.
and it gives you an advantage in grants too.
Yeah,
And
and,
because you're combining and eliminating, hopefully, some duplication in services, equipment, whether it be heating, electric, I mean, all kinds of things then become into play there.
Correct.
Not only building, but then the maintenance long-term, which would reduce the cost to the participating agencies.
And this is something the federal government is pushing, and there's a lot of federal money out there for communities to pull together and do this type of thing. Some
John,
big grants.
you might mention Shimkus'
Yeah,
office.
and he got back with me. It's funny, that reference me right back to the one, the large government grant that,
The USDA.
the USDA grant that's out there. That's the one he suggested. He goes, that's the one for bricks and mortar, one of the few grants out there for bricks and mortar. And so he sent me a link to that.
We'll be talking about this in the next study session, the next meeting. And we're planning the next general meeting on what, on the 14th?
I think around
roughly?
14,
Around
around
the 14th.
October 14.
Yeah,
You think about a safety tax, think that would pass?
well, we haven't even got,
No, I don't, we'll have to kick in money somehow.
You're right.
So however we decide that that money is obtainable, we have to look at. But I did notice that a lot of these communities that are building these are called safety buildings.
right.
So there's a reason they're calling them a safety
Right.
building. And I'm sure it's because they want to be able to use safety money to build
I
it.
guess how broad is that?
Well, if you call 911, and here's the rationale behind it, is it okay if I speak for
Sure.
a moment?
Oh, absolutely.
If you call 911, what do you expect to show up? Let's say you and your wife are having an argument. What do you expect to show up? In this county, if you live in town, you have, that was a bad example, but I'm just saying, like, you dial 911, the 911 dispatcher has to take down all of your information, then transfer you to the city police department, relay all that information, hope that that call isn't lost between the time. The city dispatcher then has to dispatch city police, and you may or may not need an ambulance at that point in time. City police may or may not need county backup at that point in time. In this, if you are experiencing a burglary at your home and you live in the city limits, we have trained people to call 911 in an emergency. We haven't trained them to call the 7-digit police number. So the rationale behind that is it's a public safety answering point. It is a piece out. Where can I go if I need to drop off my baby because I had a baby and I don't want it? Where can I go if I am homeless and I'm looking for help? Where can I go if it's a cooling and warming center for somebody who doesn't have heat or electricity? It's kind of looking at that as a whole in public safety. That's where the money is. That's where the grant dollars are.
And then we also forgot that would be, did John?
John mentioned this.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Does that kind of make sense? Trying to look at combining the majority of that stuff, and like Brian and I experience, I'm paying a guy, we all use the same radio guy, Jeff too, we all use the same radio guy. So we're all paying him trips to come out of Tilton, Illinois to work on our radio. And so when I need him, he's maybe at the sheriff's department, or he may be at the fire department, and he's charging him a fee, and he's charging, but we're all in the same location, it's one trip fee. And if he has work to do over here in this building, work to do in this building type of thing. Same way with diesel mechanics or mechanics that work on vehicles. Well, he can't get to me today because he's working on the fire engine. So now I'm trying to search for my own guy. Well, maybe we hire a maintenance guy that becomes a full-time position for us, and then he's contracted out to work on police cars, fire engine. I don't know. We have to start kind of pushing the envelope and thinking a little bit outside of the box in order to do more with less. Because we all have less dollars, but we're also have a less labor pool. We're all competing for the same people and the same people's time and space.
And a tornado comes and wipes y'all out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a downside. You know, we were talking about, like, someone mentioned ESDA. you know, they're out there on High Street, but they do have radios, equipment, tower to possibly, so I mean, if you start throwing just 100% of everybody there, where's your backup?
Need redundancy
Right.
somewhere,
Yeah,
so we can, and that can be planned into the system.
right.
That's a logistics thing that would obviously be taken into account.
Well, we just
Well, I
need-
mean, I guess I would ask now, like, if, prime example, 911 got struck by lightning a couple weeks ago, where's their backup? If that had taken that place out, where's their backup currently?
As far as radio,
Our stuff, when it goes out, rolls over to Douglas County.
To Douglas, okay? So that's something I didn't know.
But ESDA has, ESDA does have some radio systems, if something happened there, we could go out to the ESDA and do some work out of the ESDA building.
Okay, yeah, so that's definitely a good, those types of questions are the questions that would need to
Like,
feed back to
when
Jeff when
you
we're
went to Pike
doing
County,
these
you
meetings.
know, they had it down in that bunker, down in the basement.
We have a lot of our redundancy in the basement of our Easy Care building. So if our hospital computers crash out on our main campus, we can migrate a lot of stuff to the basement of Easy Care and a lot of our servers, things like that. So we do have some redundancy, and also with our, what we call the FOC building, which is 911 North Main, Kreckman, you guys used to call it Kreckman. We have some redundancy out there as well. So you're right, there is, has to be a contingency plan for that.
John?
Yeah, I just wanted, I understand it, I think there's value in it. A lot to discuss, just from the nuts and bolts of it as a county board. It sounds like you two have met. Is this a committee, just two people have one person representing the board sitting in on it? I'm just wondering, what do the seven of us need to do
Well,
to proceed?
at this point, are you interested in pursuing more information and seeing how it's working out? Obviously, the questions are you interested? Funding? And then the last one is we need to come up with some idea of what kind of square footage we need to proceed. I find that's gonna be pretty hard.
Rough
For us.
I think it's just gonna be a rough estimate.
So-
And I would say err on the side of high, again, because we don't need to know how many offices y'all need and how many computer bays you're gonna need. It's, do you need a building that's 500 square feet, or do you need a building that's 3,500 square feet? Because that changes the acquisition of land that we would need to purchase.
Well, and then let's talk about this. We did a little bit the other day. Is a hospital talking about doing it out there? Because we have ground downtown. And we can get more.
We don't have much ground.
Okay, so
Yeah,
you're not
we don't-
necessarily
yeah, we-
looking at the campus.
No, and we would like to get the ambulance service a little bit more centrally located in the county. But if we're talking combining with fire and police, they have to be within city limits or something that can be annexed into the city limits. So we would need to look at something
Well,
in that aspect as well.
and I'm not meaning to shut you out of it, but just from the overall effect, it kinda has to be between the county and the city, because you guys are on a 5-year contract, and you guys don't wanna sink a bunch of money into something when it's a short-term contract, and that marries us in, so, that's another consideration as far as location and funding and everything.
Let's see, you could do it one of two ways.
Yeah.
Whatever the current ambulance service,
Still
there
do
would be
that.
a lease.
Right.
They have to locate there.
Right, I know, but I'm just saying.
So they would contribute through a lease agreement. I'm just saying, and that may not work.
Yeah, no, I see, I'm just saying, like I say, I'm not shutting you out, I'm not, nothing against you guys, it's just you're a unique player in this party, whereas the county and city are gonna be married to it for the lifetime of the
We
building.
have to keep everything arm's length
Right,
so that we can do what we need to do in the future.
Somebody's asked about the coastal building, is that building too old, or, that'd be a nice area.
It's a nice area.
gee, that's all I
Big,
want, stone's
big.
another brick building for the county.
I think the first question is, are we interested? then we need to help to look at funding, and if we are interested, then the, or the,
USDA.
well, yeah, but then you folks on the building committee need to come up with a high estimate of what we might wanna do, and that would have to include maybe some things, functions that we wouldn't even put in there, but just in case it fits.
Right.
Does that make sense?
And you need to look at all, I think if you're gonna do that, you need to look at all your structure, you need to look at, maybe look at the treasurer's office. You know, what's the, I mean, that's just an idea, but, you know, what's its useful life at this point? What are you gonna have to spend on it in the next?
Well, and
Just things to look at.
Probation.
Whether- Probation.
you know, that's,
Right. I mean, you've got
even the court
stuff,
system.
you've got stuff stuck in that court, poked in corners and places in that courthouse that
Yeah,
wasn't intended to be there at the time they built the courthouse, so.
lots changed.
There's just a lot to
So
look
the
at.
thing I keep thinking about, and I think we absolutely should pursue this, get more information. The one thing that I think we're not gonna have a direct one-to-one cost savings as it pertains to any particular building, because a lot of the stuff, a lot of the functions that we're looking to put in this public safety building, we're not gonna be able to either A, offload the building, or, you know, basically compensated for moving that to another building. We're still gonna have costs that are folded in, whether it's the courthouse, whether it's ESDA, whether it's the annex, you know, potentially. So, there's a lot involved in there as far as this whole thing is concerned, but absolutely want to know more about it. We are interested.
Is anybody not, I mean, do you agree with that? I mean, as a general, kind of a, not taking a vote, but just as a straw vote?
I mean, at this point, it's free, right? Like, so.
Right.
why
Yeah, it
don't we
never
get
hurts to
the
gather information.
At some point, we may have to, you know, take a little harder look at it, but
Dan?
right now.
Are you okay with
Go ahead.
taking a look? Carl?
take a look.
Obviously, we
Well,
don't know a
before-
lot of the answers, so, but we can proceed to the next step and continue to go to the meeting, come up with some, our funding sources, which we've already started to take a look at, and number two is square footage. Okay? Okay, so we're ready to go to the meeting,
Okay,
okay?
I'll let Lauren set it.
We obviously have some immediate needs.
Yeah,
Of
so,
course,
yeah.
yeah.
and then we need to keep that in mind, if there's something that's parallel, you know, on a parallel track, we need to keep all these things in mind and not put our blinders on and said, well, you know, we'll just do anything we want, you know?
Just real quick, back to the earlier question. Second, 11 or at 11 o'clock, does that work for you? Wednesday, the
Second
second.
Wednesday, yeah.
This coming Wednesday?
No,
No, no,
No,
I-
no,
this Wednesday?
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. I got that.
not this week, but the following
Right.
week.
Okay.
Sorry.
No,
October 2nd, so. it's-
Carl, you good with that?
my birthday.
He said October 2nd, though.
Yeah, October 2nd.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
yeah.
All right.
You want the
Sam, you good with that?
cupcake to celebrate?
Perfect with that.
All right, done.
Well, we already had a meeting set up this Wednesday at 11 o'clock, so I was confused.
More important than my meeting?
Yes,
They're all involved.
no, they're actually equally important.
What time did you say?
11.
All right,
I don't have anything.
Johnny,
I have nothing.
Carl?
No.
You guys are easy. So the fuel tank got moved to the 30th of September. So,
Shock.
yeah. Also, did you see that email?
It's already done.
Okay.
We had to modify an agreement.
Yep.
So it's done.
We've got a meeting scheduled to go in Springfield
Yeah,
on
what's
a Wednesday. I think it's the 10th. Is that right? Does that work out?
every night?
Thursday.
Thursday the 10th. Yeah, that sounds better. You don't have it written down? Now I feel like I need to go back and check that for sure. So we
Yeah,
just-
I did not.
I have it on my calendar, but I'll make sure that.
You told me about it and I forgot to write it down, I'm sorry.
October 10th, 2:30.
I've got it, oh, I do have it in the, in my messages.
I believe that's all I've got.
You do have a copy of the levy. I made sure that, I think you were gonna have it electronically, I gave Carl his late last week. Once we put in there what exactly we collected this year, it does work out to about 2% increase in the levy. You notice that several items have gone up. If you go to the very last page, that basically is the synopsis of what this means. We actually collected, as a matter of course, through the treasurer's office and certified by the clerk, 3.554, 608.26. That funded the general fund, tort immunity, the highway, CATB, federal AIDS matching fund, county retirement, county mental health is included in that, the extension education service, community mental health, and then finally Social Security. So there are some other agencies involved there. And you'll notice that we're up, I think, what is that, $70,000 over last year. Okay? And you'll notice at the very bottom, the special service area number 1 ambulance service is showing 0 for the years. Okay? At this point.
I had one question on this, and I meant to check with somebody else over the weekend, and it didn't happen. Since they merged all the county extensions, where do we actually send the check for the extension education program
It
on that
goes
levy?
here locally over to the Farm Bureau office to those folks.
Okay, but since they consolidated, then they figure out how I think it's 3 counties, they combine it and divvy it up. Okay.
The other thing I want to, take a look at it, it's the only thing we've been able to generate in its totality so far, and we may have to adjust it a little bit, but at least you have it. As far as the budget, we're still working on the budget, and some things are affecting it, including how we handle the jail, and those questions are still very much up in the air for the next week or so. So we're trying to do the best we can. Yes, Carl?
You said a 2% increase.
Yes.
Is that for all the levies or on the general?
All the levies.
Okay. The general county tax,
That's,
how much of an increase on it? And I noticed that the county retirement tax went down.
Yes.
The levy went in.
yes. 4.7%, Carl. Okay?
So the overall tax bills will go up 4.7, no, that would, okay,
No, no.
thank you.
The county ones will actually be down because we're not collecting the ambulance
Well,
levy.
right, nothing.
I did not include that in out of fairness, so you could compare apples to apples. But we are collecting 350 some, or 40 some thousand less than we have in the past years, okay? At least for the next 4 or 5 years, okay? And we'll do the very best on the budget to get it out as soon as we can. These things, we have 2 meetings in November, one the first Wednesday and one the last Wednesday. And those are when, the first Wednesday in October, we'll accept these and lay them over for a couple of weeks or 20-some days worth of public viewing. And then the last Wednesday of the month is when we actually adopt these documents, okay? So, I wish I had more information, but when I don't have it, I don't have it. I think everything else is in, but a couple of, yes, Carl. Oh, I thought you went.
Well, when you get done, I got something
Oh,
else
that's fine.
about the Friday meeting. Do you want to address that briefly?
Well, I think, would you feel more comfortable in doing that, or do you want me to?
You go ahead.
Oh, of course. Are there any other questions? You can call me anytime on the levy. obviously, Gary, you know that you can call me anytime if you have any questions on it or later today, okay? We had a sheriff's meeting on Friday morning and discussed some of the options as far as the jail. We're basically heading down two courses of action. One is closing the jail, but keeping some functions within the jail and keeping, for example, booking and holding while the prisoners are here, even though they're being transported to other places for, actual residency.
Keep them one day, is that right, and hold them?
Yeah, we can keep them
overnight.
only while the court is in session.
So you keep them overnight?
No,
Okay.
no
Nobody's-
prisoners, this option would include no prisoners
Okay.
overnight.
But I just,
No, that's, ask
that's what I
questions
thought,
as you
so,
go.
that's good.
So that, but we would maintain 911, the computer systems, communications, all the other things would still be maintained in that facility, okay? And covered. Then the second way we're gonna go, or propose, and we're exploring, is to keep the jail partially open. In other words, booking the newer two-cell blocks on the first floor, closing the two oldest jail holding areas in the oldest part of the jail, so that that would no longer be functioning. So we'd have roughly 18 to 20 capacity, and that's what we're talking about doing, and then farming out long-term folks, or women and juveniles. Like we've been sending out juveniles no matter what, because we just don't have.
We don't keep any juveniles in-house.
Right, that's what I'm saying, is we don't have the requisite requirements to keep juveniles in our jail. So that's the two courses that we're trying desperately to figure out. To that end, there's other things happening, like looking at the administration of the jail, making contact with the Illinois Department of Corrections, reaching out to several people in the community. The sheriff was going to reach out to an individual that had shown interest in and has a fair amount of experience, and he may have a lot. I don't know how much he has. I have a feeling we're going to find out here a little later. I think Carl and the sheriff are going to talk to him. Carl was going to talk to people. What else am I forgetting, Carl? We're working with the judiciary and the state's attorney to make sure that we're dotting all the i's, crossing all the t's, making sure we're not forgetting something. We reached out to our labor attorney to make sure that we are doing the things that are necessary to not only protect the inmates who are being transferred and safety, but also to treat everybody who works for the county in a proper and professional way. Okay, Carl, did you want to?
Just another thing, as far as the judiciary, we had a meeting last week. They're gonna, looking at alternative incarceration ideas, which could ultimately be a big help in the numbers that we've got in the facility.
Do we use ankle bracelets in home? We don't do that here?
Yeah. So,
That's something we've discussed and did discuss, I guess.
Okay.
I assume
The part where we keep the prisoners, is that, has to be updated, or is it fine the way it is? You said the newer part.
okay, what we're doing, and thank you, because you jogged my memory. We are using an engineer and reaching out to other engineers to double check everything, make sure that what we're doing is in a safe manner for not only for the future, but for the buildings, and make sure we've got no exposure,
Yeah.
okay? We want to make sure that all employees that work in that facility are safe. Anybody that we house in that facility are safe,
Okay.
okay? And to that end, we've reached out and we do have people working on that now in a professional way, okay?
And our insurance company actually said, gave us the okay, they'll pay up to $5,000 to have a company and different individuals, be it electrician, engineer, to come in and actually do and give us an assessment of the building, so that's what's in the process.
And they're on board with this possible course, you know, assuming we can
We're actually
do it
getting
as we're hoping we can.
directive from them.
Okay, that's where we're at. I mean, it's complicated, it's not easy. We're doing the best we can and using all resources and communications that we can, okay?
Any update or progress as far as the things we need to get done between Friday and today?
We're finding we'll know more about that here in the coming hours and day, okay? We do have a labor meeting, a negotiation meeting on Wednesday at 11 o'clock, it would appear. So
What day was that set for? Jeff?
11 o'clock Wednesday.
This coming Wednesday.
Yeah,
Not the second.
not the second.
Okay.
This week,
All right.
that would be the 15th.
Here?
Or 25th,
Yeah,
yes.
2 days from now here.
Okay.
What's it gonna cost to house prisoners in, like in Marshall?
We're still finding that out. Uh,
Yeah, the sheriff has talked to, what, 4 or 5 different counties surrounding in the area on availability and prices and stuff, and we've got all that information.
yeah, right. Do we have a need for a closed session at this point? Or are you, Carl, gonna head out with the sheriff and do what you
No
have to?
closed session, I don't think, at this
Okay,
point.
do you,
Unless someone else has something.
Sheriff, do you need it?
I'm good.
Okay, that's fine. I don't have anything else. Gary, do you have any questions?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I gotta go, Carl. It's your meeting. No, I'm just teasing. Motion to adjourn,
So move.
Second.
okay? Derek moved, Andy seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you all. Get to work.
So,
Yes.